For today's video, I thought we would bring it back to basics and talk a little bit about personal style. Personal style can be a really difficult thing to pinpoint, whether you're a beginner who is just starting out and learning, or someone who's usually pretty self-assured. No matter where you are starting at with your style, it's so easy to get lost in the sea of content telling us contradicting things about what something like personal style even means, or if it even exists in the first place. Today, I have some tips and suggestions for how you can define it for yourself, and then of course ways to develop it even further. By the end of this video, I hope you feel inspired to play around, explore your creativity, and dive a bit deeper into your own self-discovery, and of course, your personal style. I'm looking forward to exploring my own creativity and self-identity and interests with Skillshare. As someone who really values learning and helping others learn too, there is always an endless sea of topics and subjects I would love to explore and dive deeper into, but that can be really difficult managing on my own sometimes. What I love about Skillshare is how they simplify that process and make it easy to learn about anything you want to with ease and support. Skillshare is the largest online learning community for creatives with thousands of classes led by industry experts. Whether your interest lies in film, illustration, design, freelance, or productivity, Skillshare can help you take your careers, skills, hobbies, passions, and even your side hustles to the next level. I personally have been wanting to broaden my knowledge and skills regarding things like video making, creative thinking, and planning, and even painting and drawing. No matter what you are trying to improve on or what level you're starting at, there are countless classes available that will meet you where you're at and help you learn, grow, and accomplish your goals. I took the class Personal and Lifestyle Branding, Building Your Story by Kate Ahrens, which focuses on defining your personal brand or business and its intentions and goals. Watercolor in the Woods, A Beginner's Guide to Painting the Natural World by Rosalie Hazlett was another class I enjoyed. I had a lot of fun mixing my love for nature and my passion for art during this class, and I'm looking forward to continuing exploring all the many classes Skillshare has to offer. The first 500 people to use my link in the description will receive a 1-month free trial of Skillshare, so go ahead and click that link and get started today. Thank you so much to Skillshare for sponsoring this portion of today's video. Now it's time to get into our topic today, which is how to develop your personal style. Before I get into my own little personal list, I did want to shout out Gabrielle Arruda's channel. I hope I pronounced that correctly. A lot of her personal style videos really actually helped me profoundly with my own style. A lot of her videos are very involved and detailed, so I would highly recommend checking out some of her videos. A lot of her work really did help me approach my style in a new way, so I'll link her channel in the description. Highly recommend checking her channel out once I finish this video. With that said, I've kind of compiled and curated some advice, ideas, and concepts based off a lot of different content I have consumed over the years, and I've boiled things down and simplified things into 10 points, tips, suggestions to hopefully help you further develop your personal style, or to define it at all if that is still a process that you are in or a process that you're new to. So suggestion slash tip number 1 is to discover what you like. I would highly encourage you to make a collage of some sort, whether that be a physical one on a corkboard or something, or in a notebook, a bullet journal, even a Pinterest board works perfectly fine for this. And Pinterest even has a collage feature, which I love to use. You can even browse websites and create a little folder on your computer or your phone full of different clothing pieces and things you like. Save images to your phone, take screenshots, make a little folder, just find a place to gather and curate all of these things. Something that I really loved from Gabrielle's work on her channel is associating yourself with imagery and concepts and ideas that have nothing to do with bodies, the human form, clothing, appearance, any of that. So for instance, taking a picture of a tree, a flower, a pile of messy books and art supplies, like finding images and concepts that are abstract and bigger beyond, your human self, I think can be really helpful and a fun exercise to just find identity and yourself in things that are not your style. This does sound a little weird if you've never done something like this before, because you might be thinking, how is this going to help me? But it's going to free your mind up so much and it's really going to separate you from how you think you should look. It's going to kind of separate you from the style process and approach it in this more organic, abstract way. And all of this will kind of overall just intuitively help you find what you like more and what resonates with you. I'll make a little collage for myself as an example, but throughout this video, I'll provide imagery just to get your brain going, give you some ideas, curate a bunch of things that you like, random objects. You can include clothing if you wish. I would definitely encourage integrating that in a separate board or after you've got, the kind of vibe right, then you can kind of move forward and extend that to clothing and actual fashion items and pieces you will wear. But to start, this is just supposed to be a self-exploration type of exercise. And I find it really like empowering and motivating and inspiring to think of yourself as, beyond your physical form, because we are the media we consume or the things we like to do or our hobbies. So all in all, you want to create a mood board, collage, however you want to go about it, of all of these things that you like, that interest you, that you feel like you identify with, that represent you. Browse, peruse, cut up magazines. This is meant to be a really like intuitive sort of process. You don't want to overthink it. Whatever resonates, save it. As I said, it can be literally anything, an object, a place, a color, whatever it is, find it, collect it, group it together, and then you can kind of step back and observe and see how all these things fit together and how all these things start to shape and form you. My next tip would be to shop around without purchasing anything. So you can physically go to stores and try things on and just browse and see what's there. There's not a lot of, pop-in malls where I live. Most of them are kind of dead, but if you do have malls in your area, I would definitely encourage you to go there and check things out. Sometimes just seeing things like displayed in a certain kind of way, whether it's on a mannequin, in a storefront window, that can be inspiring and help you get ideas. And of course, I thrift most of my wardrobe. So if your budget's low, just go to the thrift, browse, see what stands out to you, consider what you like about those pieces, consider what you don't like. If you see something in the store and you recoil at it, go a little deeper into why. If you see something and you're just dying to have it, again, go deeper into why. This is also something you can do online super, super easily. One of my favorite pastimes, actually, just online shopping and buying absolutely nothing, just filling my cart, knowing I'm never going to purchase that. But this exercise does help me quite a lot decide what I actually want, what will be useful in my wardrobe, what's just catching my eye at the time. Maybe I'm being influenced because I'm seeing something online on social media a lot. Maybe I'm really curious about an item just because it's on sale and it's a good price. I would say 99% of the time, I never buy what's in the cart. Most of the time, I find I can live without it. So it can be a helpful exercise just to decide like what you really, really, really want and things you can definitely live without. Again, seeing how things are styled online can be really helpful. You might respond really well to something just looking at that clothing piece individually, but look at how it's styled. Is there a lot of ways to style this piece? Is this piece kind of limited in how you can style it? These are some good questions to ask yourself when you're browsing these items and considering them. And all around too, I think this can be helpful to figure out what you physically like to wear, like what materials, what's comfortable and fits right for your body. There's lots of items I think are gorgeous and fun to look at, but when I sit back, I'm like, am I actually going to wear that? So shopping without purchasing, helps to take that pressure and anxiety off. You don't have to worry about making a bad purchase. You can just kind of explore what you like, get a little bit of that dopamine rush as well. Sort of tricking your brain into shopping, but you're not actually shopping. All around, I guess we could just reduce this to window shopping. But window shopping can be extremely helpful. And as I said, just go a little deeper into it, question why you're obsessed with a piece, why you hate something. If something is sitting in your cart and you just can't get it out of your head, again, assess why. Is it something that you're actually meant to have? If something was sitting in your cart and then you don't want it anymore, think about that. Was it just the timing of it? It wasn't actually something you were desiring. You just happened to be there at that moment. This exercise can also help you break away from like impulse shopping. It's very easy to do that. And so it's good to build a mindfulness around that and just be a little bit more critical about what you like and don't like. My next tip is to assess what you actually wear. As I kind of touched on, it's easy to get wrapped up in the fantasy of a piece. Maybe it's just incredibly beautiful and eye-catching, and it's very, very easy to overlook the actual functionality and wear that piece will have in our day-to-day lives. And every single one of us has, corners of our closet that we don't touch, pieces that we never wear, things we bought hoping it would work out, but they just didn't. Maybe the fit is wrong, maybe the material sucks. So assess what is already in your closet and look at the pieces that you wear the most and look at the pieces that you don't touch at all. Analyze that, go into detail about that. Why do you wear that shirt all the time? Why have you not touched that jacket in 2+ years? Doing this can help you decide what materials you like, what silhouettes you like. Maybe you're someone with a lot of sensory issues like myself, and you just won't wear something that's uncomfortable or fits weird or pulls on your neck a certain way. In a perfect world, every single clothing piece would work for us, but that's just not how it works. So get real and honest with what you wear, what you don't. As As I said, there are pieces we like the idea of more than the actual piece itself. So it's a really imperative and important step to actually look at the details as to why, what separates those pieces. I have observed with myself that I avoid polyester for the most part. I do have some pieces that I can tolerate here and there, but if a material is like very slick, if it's like rough, scratchy, itchy, I'm not going to wear it. If I feel like too compressed by something, I'm not going to wear that. I definitely lean towards natural fibers or at least like a blend. If I do wear synthetic materials, I know I generally have like a time limit on those. So it can also help to think like, oh, is this a party piece? Is this just a weird styling piece that I wear sometimes? What do I actually wear in the day to day? I think it's okay to have like a variety of things in your closet. Not everything is meant to be worn every single day, and I think that's fine. I have a fashion channel, of course, and fashion is play and experimentation, and some of that, is a little bit more theatrical. It's more for the look, for photos, whatever it may be. But overall, you're gonna want a closet that has a decent blend of both happening. Things you wear all the time, things, you can pull out occasionally in style. But the point is to figure out what you actually enjoy wearing so you're not filling your closet with the things that you don't. My next tip is to take a look at your lifestyle and analyze if your wardrobe matches that. Something that was really helpful for me from Gabrielle's channel was the idea of like a fantasy life, a fantasy wardrobe, and identifying what parts of your style are essentially a fantasy and what your actual lifestyle is like. For example, I love like party girl club kind of fashion. I love sparkly little mini dresses, like ridiculous heels, mini purses, that sort of thing. A lot of like impractical wear, fun flirty things you would wear to the club or the bar. But the thing is, I'm sober. In June, I will be 4 years sober from alcohol, and I've recently cut back a bit on the devil's lettuce as well. No judgment to you, obviously, if you partake. It was just an important personal choice I had to make for myself. So needless to say, outfits that I'm wearing out to bars, clubs, not really something that I have use for anymore. Doesn't mean I can't wear those kinds of clothes when I go out. Of course, I still go to concerts, I'll hang out with friends occasionally, do that sort of thing. But a lot of the things I do tend to be more low-key. I, of course, encourage you to wear whatever you want, whenever you want. But sometimes there can, be sort of a time and place for certain particular outfits or pieces. Like a sparkly halter club dress, I'm not really going to feel totally comfortable wearing that going to like grocery shop. And so that's something I have to consider when I'm shopping. I still let myself indulge and have those fun sparkly pieces to wear when I personally feel like the time is appropriate. But for me personally, there's only so many situations I'm going to wear those types of pieces. So going out to bars, going out to clubs is not something that I do anymore. I was never really like a club type person anyways. At least the clubs near me were never that fun. So those types of pieces, I love to admire them and I love to look at them and I think they're really fun. So I would say this like fantasy life, this fantasy character I have is like a rock star, pop star, party girl, socialite type of character. And so the idea is to incorporate, these fantasy characters, these sort of aspirational characters when you can, if it's feasible, if it's realistic, if it makes sense. So I incorporate it here and there. But for the most part, my wardrobe is not going to make sense, like filled with pieces like that. Things I actually do are spend a lot of time at home. I am a homebody. I've kind of always been a homebody. I do like to go out, explore, travel a bit. I love going to little downtown areas, shopping local. I love thrifting, going to the movies, concerts occasionally. One of my biggest interests and hobbies is just nature, the outdoors. I'm a little witchy, a little hippie. I hug trees. I talk to the moon. So a lot of my wardrobe has to make sense for my interest in what I actually spend most of my time doing. Of course, thinking about your work, your job, your career, this is an important thing to analyze as well. Maybe you do have a career that requires a uniform or wearing the same thing over and over. But if you can wear your day-to-day wardrobe to your job, that is something to consider as well. I personally am not a big fan of the idea of like a personal wardrobe and a work wardrobe. I think it's good to have it like as seamless and interchangeable as you possibly can make it. But like I said, if it applies to you, that is how I would approach it. Because for me, I wouldn't want to feel like two totally different people. The idea is to make your wardrobe more seamless, able to be mixed and matched and styled a variety of ways. So I think having like some consistency there is a good thing to try to achieve. But as I mentioned, with my particular interests, it's very important that I have outfits that are practical, comfortable, things I can wear for long periods of time. I like removable layers a lot of the time. My temperature is like always constantly fluctuating. Yes, sometimes I hit a time limit, like I said, with certain pieces and I don't want to wear them anymore. So a wardrobe made up of pieces that give me those kinds of difficulties is not going to be a useful wardrobe for me. Obviously, we touched on this a lot in the previous point, but it's important that your wardrobe matches your lifestyle. Not to say that you can't step out of the box and have fun once in a while or have those, crazy, whimsical, flashy pieces you want to incorporate. But like if you are going out all the time, if you're going to bars, if you're very, very social, maybe the cottagecore look doesn't totally fit that. If you're very outdoorsy, maybe the clubby kind of aesthetic doesn't really fit that. So just observe, analyze what you like to do in your free time, your job, your personal life, your downtime. What kind of events do you like to go to? When you do dress up, what does that sort of pertain? Do your shoes need to be very walkable? Can you drive places, or do you have to walk, ride your bike? Maybe you're a mom and you're chasing kids all the time. There's lots of little details of our lives we can kind of overlook, and we want a piece to work, but then when we actually bring it into our lives and try to apply it to our lifestyle, it just doesn't mesh that well. So that was really helpful for me, identifying what my lifestyle is actually like and separating myself from the sort of fantasies and aspirations I have, because I would like to be more social. I would like to go out more. And so I do want to have pieces, that I can wear out, feel fun, cute, sexy in. But I'm being realistic with myself. I know that's not something I'm going to do all the time. So I don't need to have like 1 million party dresses and mini skirts. I have a nice selection, a nice balance, but a lot of my fancier, sassier, more restrictive pieces are not necessarily going to be the pieces that I want to wear when I'm, going to go for a 2-hour walk in the woods. So assess your lifestyle, be honest, be realistic. Like I said, Gabrielle's channel, she goes a lot more in depth and I don't want to take away from her videos too much, but she does have a lot of fun and creative exercises that you can do. But identifying like your sort of fantasy, aspirational self, identifying your realistic, honest, everyday self. The goal is to, hopefully blend and find something in the middle. Obviously, your wardrobe, you want to lean realistic every day and not aspirational. You want the pieces that you own in your closet to work for you now. My next tip is to find your style twin / celebrity inspo. I've thought about making this a series, actually, going into some of my celebrity inspirations, because I think it's fun to play with the idea and concept of muses. Silky Mochi is another great channel that kind of goes into this idea, sort of basing your style or taking inspiration from some sort of creative muse, whether it's a character or an actual person. And the goal is not to copy paste their style, but to identify what you like about it, what resonates with it. Why do you like observing that person's fashion so much? What are the commonalities? Where is the overlap with your own personal wardrobe or your own lifestyle, your own interests? I think it's also very helpful to find people that are a similar height and weight to you, or just similar sizing in general. I think fashion, of course, is for everybody. I take inspiration from all sorts of people that, of course, look a lot different than I do, but it really helped me kind of fine-tune my style and figure out what looks best on me by finding other people that have similar proportions, similar height. I am on the shorter side, so something that looks really amazing on Bella Hadid is not necessarily going to translate on me. So it was really helpful for me to find like fashion muses that are my height. Hayley Williams is a big one. I'm a huge fan of Paramore. I've loved their music ever since I first heard them, which was when I was 10 playing The Sims 2. Been around since the very first record. So Hayley Williams is always been someone that I've looked up to. I love her whole vibe. I love her energy. I love a lot of the things that she stands for and advocates for. But most importantly, pertaining to what we're talking about specifically right now, I love her stage style. I love her fashion sense in general. And it's been fun to like observe her style changes over the years. But this particular era of Hayley Williams is one I've been really enjoying. I do follow her stylist on Instagram. And so that kind of helps me sort of like break apart the looks and the concepts. And so I can kind of see that creative process and go, oh, okay, like I see where they were going with that. I see the references. And rather than just, copy and pasting her style, I focus on like specific elements like that and sort of just the general creative practice behind it and apply it to my own. One reason I love her as a style muse is because we are the same height. We might have varying things about our appearances, but for the most part, there is a ton of overlap with her aesthetic and mine and our overall like physicality. I've been in alternative spaces my whole life. Music has always been a big part of my life. And so a lot of my style style muses tend to reflect those sort of things. While I do pull inspiration from actresses and models and people like that occasionally, a large bulk of my personal inspiration comes from artists and musicians. So I've learned a lot about like proportion and styling and those sorts of things through observing her over the years. So finding someone that you feel in sync with, whether it's a creator, a celebrity, whoever it is, it could be a friend, just finding someone that kind of mirrors you in certain ways can be really helpful. And again, the goal is not to copy and paste their style. Of course, you want to apply your own unique perspective to it. But as I said, rock star is sort of like a fantasy character I have for myself. But I am not a rock star. I am not Hayley Williams. so a lot of what she wears is not practical for me. A lot of what she wears is not even anywhere near my realm of price range. So that alone is already going to differentiate our styles quite a bit. But her messy sort of playfulness, experimentation, her boldness, how daring she is with her looks, how she often changes it up. One moment her hair is long, the next it's short, she changes the color, she can do a really glam, again, party, fun, bougie, classy sort of look. She can also bring things in a really creative, experimental direction. And then she has this kind of, stage persona in and of itself. Looking at how she like diversifies and mixes it up, isn't afraid to change and look completely different day to day, that is something that has really influenced the way that I approach fashion. So while I'm using her as an example specifically for my own self, I encourage you to explore, like I said, similar height and measurements can really help. Somebody you just really admire, someone whose style you get really excited to see what they do next. Those are the kinds of people you're going to want to source some inspiration from. But sometimes it can be hard, looking at yourself in the mirror and figuring those things out. So turning to other people for inspiration and like a sense of direction, it's not a bad thing. I think it's a very useful thing. And like I said, as long as you're owning it, interpreting it through your own lens, I think it's like perfectly okay and valid to source inspo from all sorts of people. Art at the end of the day is not just things inspiring said art, sort of like an endless cycle and loop, One thing cannot exist without the other. So don't feel the pressure that you have to be this like, wholly unique person that's like never done anything done before. It's totally okay to reference things. In fact, it can be very helpful, getting the basics down, figuring things out, and then you can kind of branch off from there. My next tip is to try out different style systems. So this can range from color analysis to the Kibi body types to the Kitchener essences. I'm not going to be going into those systems specifically. There are about a million creators on here that can do a much better job than I ever could. And to be honest, a lot of it kind of bogs me down creatively. I would say my advice is to approach it with a grain of salt and don't be too rigid about it. Because honestly, sometimes I don't know if I buy a lot of what they are saying. I think boiling down, the human form into these like quick little digestible things that's not necessarily realistic are going to work for everybody. And also I find a lot of these systems are not very inclusive at all. And so it can be hard to find even a range of like body types and skin color within a lot of these systems. I will say I think they're getting a lot more inclusive now, but even in my own personal research, I just have observed that they're not the most inclusive thing. Like color analysis, for instance, I have had like a really hard time figuring that out for some reason. One of you actually suggested that I'm a bright color season, which helped me a lot, and I was on the right track with that, I think. I'm guessing I'm a bright winter or a bright spring. Does it really matter? No. I think it's less helpful to try to like narrow down what you are, and it's more helpful to figure out what you aren't. So for instance, I know I'm not an autumn palette or like a softer palette. I tend to look better in more vivid colors. Pastels and things can work on me too, but of course I'm wearing black, which is not like recommended necessarily for every type. If I am a bright spring, I'm pretty sure black is not a color I'm supposed to wear, or let alone dye my hair that color. But little things that I did find helpful were like if I balance it out with a pop of color or a bright makeup look or a red lip, those sorts of things can balance out the look, and I can kind of do whatever I want with that. So I think incorporating it in like small doses can be useful. And maybe if a look looks off to you, it's because you're just completely missing something from that color palette or whatever. But to me, I'm not gonna like go to the store with a specific chart and only buy those pieces. I don't think that's a fun way to approach style, and it kind of makes it feel like a uniform, and it's like very conformist in my opinion, because again, who are we like looking better to? Like, who are we looking better for? I'm just not sure what type of gaze we are like appealing to through these systems, if that makes sense. So that's just something to consider. I'm not knocking it if it works for you, but I personally have found myself asking those questions while exploring these types of style systems. So maybe it would look harsh on you to wear a certain eye makeup or whatever, but like it's fun. It's fun to try new things and experiment. So don't limit yourself, but it can be helpful to like fine tuning certain things. Like there's certain shades of colors I know I'm probably never going to wear. I don't like how they look on me, but again, it's going back to how I feel about it and what my own personal gaze is. Just do what you like to do. But like I said, I did find it helpful to kind of narrow down what doesn't work for me, which is just a flat out no, and then incorporate things I know work. So I know I'm a bright color season. So again, having like a bold red lip automatically just makes me feel a little bit more vibrant, a little bit more alive. I like having pops of color in my looks. In general, I kind of like to dress colorfully, so it happens to work out in my favor. A lot of the colors I'm naturally gravitated towards automatically kind of fit within that box. But if you find out your color season is not what you like to wear, ignore it. Ultimately, you want to do what you like to do and what sparks joy for you. But I will say it is helpful to just kind of fine tune things, narrow it down. Because, like I said, not every single color needs to work for us. Not every single piece needs to work for us. Sometimes we can just admire things and not necessarily have to wear those things on ourselves. Kibbe is another thing, like I have kind of mixed feelings on. Again, I don't think it's the most inclusive thing, and it is kind of hard to figure it out. I'm pretty sure I'm a gamine. I seem to fit most of the description for that. I am shorter. I have some sharpness to my features. I do kind of naturally gravitate to a lot of retro aesthetics, which are recommended for that type. But again, I don't necessarily agree with all the advice that's recommended to me. A lot of the advice I see is don't wear oversized things or flowy things, which is ridiculous to me because I love a good baby doll dress. I love like a big jacket. I'm gonna wear what I want at the end of the day. And I have kind of figured out my own proportions, you know? I'm not gonna listen to what a stranger is suggesting for me. So I think you can take advice, find what works, you know, incorporate that, leave the rest, forget the rest. Fashion is not meant to be this rigid thing. So if you find out your Kibbe type and you're like, oh, well, now I can't wear stripes or I can't wear maxi dresses, like that's dumb. Wear what you want to. But as I said, like finding out what you aren't is profoundly more helpful. Like I referenced Bella Hadid a little bit ago, what works for her is not necessarily going to work for me. I know I'm not like a dramatic. I know I'm not a natural type. Things that feel overly modern and trendy, those types of items look super weird on me, in my opinion. I feel like I'm in a costume. So it is helpful for identifying that sort of thing, like why certain pieces feel weird or costumey to you while they don't feel like you. So it can be helpful, but again, take it with a grain of salt. Don't let that define your entire approach to this. When I was learning about these things, it was very easy for me to cross off what I wasn't. So that just gave me more room and energy to focus on what I did like, what it did work, what did resonate with me. But I did find a lot more clarity and usefulness with the Kitchener essence system, which is very similar to Kibbe. Kibbe came first, takes inspiration from that. I'm not going to get into the specifics. Again, there's other people that will do a better job talking about it than I. But the essences kind of focus more on your facial features and like your general vibe. In Gabrielle's channel, she says that most people will have like a blend of 3 maximum. So of course, you have little sprinkles of the other types here and there. Nobody's one whole thing entirely. But for the most part, you're going to have like 2 dominant essences, like a splash of a third. I believe I am mostly gamine and ingenue, and then a touch of romantic as well. I think my style definitely leans gamine, and I've had people tell me I'm gamine. I've also had people tell me I'm ingenue. So again, I think there is a blend there. I like bold colors and prints. My style is a little bit funky sometimes. I can do edgy, alternative, but I can also do really girly baby doll sorts of looks with florals and dresses. So I like to incorporate like romantic types of details, but overall I like a sense of fun and playfulness. The essences I found like a much more freeing concept. It feels like there's more movement and I like the way it connects better. So that is my preferred system of the 3 that I've explored. But I encourage you to, you know, read up on it. Again, don't go too crazy. Don't fall down a huge rabbit hole with it, but take what works, reject the rest. But I will say like finding my essences was profoundly helpful actually. And then going back to point 1, just sort of gathering images, creating mood boards can be really helpful when you find out all of these details. You know, what your types are, your vibe, your aesthetic, your essence, whatever you want to call it, and then creating like a separate mood board even for that. That helped me a lot with my style because when it clicked for me, like, oh, okay, I see how this all comes together, the colors and proportions, this and that, it became a lot easier for me to like look at an outfit and go, I don't like that because XYZ. I like that because XYZ. So style systems, while they can be a bit like repressive and kind of taking away your creativity and fun a bit, I definitely think there are people that take it too far. And again, it's like, who are you trying to look better for? Ultimately, what you feel about yourself matters the most. And yeah, theoretically, like with different colors in hairstyles or whatever, blah blah blah, look better on me. Again, it's look better to whom. So don't take it too seriously, but it can be helpful in like fine tuning the details of your style and what really, really suits you, what really clicks with you. So, as I was already starting to get into, and I've talked already quite a bit about, my next tip is to avoid too much rigidity and avoid too many rules. Yes, it's a bit contradictory to trying out style systems, but as I said, I don't think you should approach it in like, this is the final word and say. And a lot of the time, the fashion advice that is given and mainstreamed is not really applicable to everybody. A lot of that advice tends to be really generic, anyhow. It's trying to apply to as many people as possible, but we're all unique individuals at the end of the day. Finding what works for you is the best way to approach it. Like color analysis, Kibbe, Kishner, that's one thing. But what I really don't like is stuff that's like, you should not wear these prints and blah, blah, blah if you're this height, this weight, this shape, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And again, who is this appealing to? And in general, I find a lot of like fashion advice is meant to like make you look smaller, more streamlined, more polished. Fashion is self-expression, fashion is art, it's experimentation, it's fun, it's play. And just because fashion is all of that doesn't mean that your style has to be like, whoa, crazy, colorful, out there. Maybe your style is more muted and relaxed, very realistic. You don't like a lot of accessories. That's totally fine. The point though is to break out of rules and norms and expectations that have, been placed on us pretty much since birth. No gender has to express themselves a certain way. No individual has to express themselves a certain way. There's no such thing as fashion rules. And I very, very much encourage you to break the rules. If you love a certain print and you think you can't wear it because of whatever reason, ignore that. Wear it. It's easy to get in your head about it because you have, 1,000 people online saying, this pattern is out, this item is in, this trend is past, throw this out, wear this, don't do that, blah, 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 blah. Tune out that noise. Don't listen. The only voice that you should really be listening to at the end of the day is in here. Maybe that is corny, but it's the truth. Your soul, your joy, your creative energy, whatever you want to call it, that will speak to you when things are right and meant for you. So don't restrict yourself. Don't put yourself in boxes. Life is much, much, much too short for that. My next tip is to be honest about what you like and be honest about what you don't. And also be very clear about the reasons why. We already touched on this a bit, but it's very, very helpful to get into the specifics of why you don't like something, why you do like something, why you might like something aesthetically, but it doesn't work for you personally. And this also kind of touches into the fantasy life sort of thing. Not every piece is meant to work for you. And so your personal wardrobe certainly does not need to be filled with so many options. Too many options can actually feel really overwhelming. It's part of the reason I hate streaming sites. A lot of the time I just find myself scrolling and getting kind of overwhelmed with the volume that's on there. Like I don't want to scroll and scroll and scroll and look for something to watch. And your wardrobe really shouldn't be like that either. You shouldn't be like swiping, browsing, and you're just overwhelmed at the sheer volume of clothes. And it's okay to have a lot of clothes. It's okay to like clothes. I myself do. I would be a huge hypocrite if I were not to acknowledge that. But I am honest and clear with myself about what I like and don't like, and this is an ongoing learning process. So don't beat yourself up if you get something and it ends up not working out for you. Just take that information and learn from it, apply it next time. So sparkly, beautiful stiletto heels, for example. Love shoes. I love looking at them. But there are so many shoes I know will not work for me in my day-to-day life. I only have so many situations I can wear those types of things, but I don't need to have 50,000 stiletto options, like maybe just a couple at max. Most of my footwear needs to be able to, stomp around in the dirt and get me from point A to point B. And I think it's okay to not just to consider the functionality things, but just things you don't like aesthetically. For instance, I am not into a lot of like modern contemporary styles. I don't like a lot of the fast fashion kind of pieces that are out there now. I like clothes that feel a little bit lived in. So the like little slinky polyester mini dress at Forever 21 gonna be a piece I'm probably not going to entertain. And of course I do shop secondhand, so that is a good way, a more sustainable and also, financially better option to explore what you like, to try out different pieces. As I said, it's okay to make mistakes. I still do sometimes where I, will have an oversight about a piece, and when I get it home, I'm like, oh, this isn't what I thought it would be. But it's okay. I think as long as you're learning As long as you're building that mindfulness around it, that's the most important thing. And again, it just makes your life easier. It makes your life simpler to have a closet full of things you like. Who would have thought? But it's true. I think a lot of us struggle with impulse buys. A lot of us struggle with that fantasy life sort of concept. And also, advertising is just like super fucking aggressive and like impossible to avoid. Like Instagram loves to torture me with things like that. I'll look at like a beautiful pair of shoes once and it just keeps popping up. It keeps popping up. Even flipping through stories, it'll show me things I looked at. And I'm trying to convince myself not to get that thing. I don't need that thing. But it's just, you know, being forced to you, being re-shown to you all the time. So it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay, you know, to give into those things occasionally. To error is to be human. But the more you practice it, the easier it is to like let those things go and just move past it. Yeah. So overall, be honest with yourself, define what you like and what you don't like, define why. That is going to be profoundly helpful when developing your personal style. My next tip is to accept that this is an ongoing process. As much as we want it to be this way sometimes, you're not going to find your entire sense of self and identity and self-expression overnight. And even who we are is changing on the day-to-day, and that's totally fine. That is how it's supposed to be. So accepting that this is an ongoing process will help you take that pressure off of yourself to have it figured out immediately. The more you practice it, the easier it gets. The more you ask yourself these sorts of questions, the deeper you go within yourself, the easier you will find the answers. Like I'm still experimenting and figuring it out, but it's taken years and years of self-expression, experimentation, throwing paint at the wall and seeing what sticks for me to even, you know, have an ounce of an idea of who I am and what I want that to look like. It's not a race, it's a marathon. Life is an ever continuing thing. Who you are at 20 is not going to be who you are at 40. Who you are at 40 is not going to be who you are at 60. And there are parts of us that we will carry throughout our lives. There are things I still respond to and resonate with that I did when I was like 11, but there are things that I liked last year that I don't resonate with anymore. That is part of the process. And you don't always have to be this like consistent, definable thing. I don't think self-identity should be approached that way. At the end of the day, it is sort of an abstract concept. You yourself can feel it, but it doesn't need to be perfectly articulated to the outside world. Somebody doesn't have to look at you and be able to say, so and so is this. Personal identity and expression is whatever it means to you. You're never going to arrive at this like perfect finalized aesthetic. It can be boiled down into, you know, a few sharp points. Who you are is this expansive thing. Who you are is creative. It's an ongoing process. There's not a final result to reach. It's all about self-discovery and just getting to know yourself. And there is no final point in which you will wholly know yourself. Ideally, you should be continuously getting to know yourself. So your sense of style, your sense of fashion and expression is the exact same way. It's never going to be perfect or finalized. It'll be forever this changing thing. But the more you practice it, the more you get to know yourself. As I said, the easier it is to sort of identify it within yourself. You'll know what things to let go of. You'll know what things to hold on to. And all around just living life, trying things, that's how we figure those things out. So be kind to yourself and embrace the journey. Now, my last tip is to remember that comparison is the thief of joy. I struggle with this all the time. It's very difficult to be on social media and see people that are seemingly perfect on the outside looking in. You know, we don't know what people are going through on the day-to-day or how they even feel about themselves. Someone with an amazing personal style might not feel the same way about themselves. They might be questioning who they are. They might be struggling with body image. There's all kinds of things, you know, that can kind of chip away at our sense of self and make it difficult to express ourselves and show up in the world as we want to. So no human being is perfect. Not one human being has it all totally figured out. If they tell you that, they're probably lying. At least they've, you know, deluded themselves into thinking that. But you don't need to compare yourself. I know it's hard. I do it. But all in all, I really do truly believe we are all brought here to be our unique selves, to inspire and lift each other up. Again, finding creativity through others' creativity. Someone else's expression and creativity and passion is not the absence of your own. You just need to dig within and find what that is within yourself. And a lot of the time, things on social media are edited. They are super, super highly curated. You might perceive someone putting on an outfit as something they just threw together, but maybe they spent weeks planning that outfit out. It's easy to like just observe these quick bites as like, oh, they have it all together. They have it all figured out. But that is so not the case. And maybe it seems obvious by now, but I constantly need that reminder. So like when you start to feel inadequate, when you feel, oh, why am I not at that place yet? This is an important thing to remind yourself. Who you are is good enough. You don't need to be somebody else or emulate what somebody else has. As I said, we are meant to inspire each other, lift each other up. It's not a competition as much as it feels like that sometimes. And there's enough creativity, expression, talent, bravery, boldness to go around for all of us. So the next time you're on social media or you see someone on the street and you think they look really cool and you're like, oh, why am I not that way? Remember that you probably are. Somebody else is looking at you like that, how you were looking at that person. And regardless, you are fine the way you are. You don't have to be anybody else, and you don't have to do what everybody else is doing. You don't have to have what everybody else has. You know, a lot of things we see online can make us feel really inadequate, but that's not the case. You're perfect as you are. It's easier to say that than to truly believe it, but just try to keep saying it to yourself until you eventually do believe it. Again, this is a practice. There's no final point where you just stop comparing yourself to other people. It's just something you have to continually check in on and remind yourself. But you are good enough, you are worthy, you have enough. You will get to where you want to be with your style and self-expression in the time it takes to get there. So don't be hard on yourself. It's supposed to be fun and uplifting. When it starts to not feel that way, that's a good time to step back and observe what's going on and ask yourself some questions. But all in all, comparison does nothing for you but rob you of your own joy and creativity and self-expression. So that's all I have for you today. I hope you found this video helpful, and I would love if you dropped your own tips and comments and suggestions below. Share ways that helped you develop your style. Whatever you want to share, feel free. Thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you again to Skillshare for sponsoring, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!